Boys and girls, winter is gone. And now it's springtime. This is one of my favorite times of year. Oh yeah, spring is really awesome because it's not cold anymore. The sun stays out longer. And when the sun stays out longer, it heats up the earth and the earth gets warmer and all sorts of cool things start to happen, boys and girls. The bears start waking up, the squirrels are running around gathering nuts, the birds are singing, just shut up! I'm sorry, you can't say shut up. And the birds are singing, boys are going, cut it out already, I'm trying to sleep here, hello? Boys and girls, it's such a happy time when it warms up and so many awesome things starts to happening. The grass starts turning green. Oh yeah. The plants start growing. The flowers start blooming on the trees. It is pretty. It is beautiful. And boys and girls, one of the really cool things happen is like when the plants start growing, there's this thing called pollination. Can you say pollination? Yeah. Boys and girls, this is how it works. When the plants start growing, the flower begins to open up and there's pollen on the inside of the flower. It's like a dust. It's like, have you ever seen your mom cook chicken or something like that, or pork chops, and she takes flour and flops it around in there, and the flour gets kind of puffy and kind of moves around like smoke, yeah, like that. Well, boys and girls, there's this little powder on the flowers, and that's pollen. And what happens, boys and girls, the bees go to the flower because they want nectar. Can you say nectar? Yeah. Boys and girls, it's a really cool thing for them because they love to eat the nectar. And so the bee is on the flower. Nectar! I love nectar! That was a little too much nectar. Gotta do it slower. But it's so delicious. Calm down, Sean Brown. Boys and girls, while they're on the plant, their feet, their little bee feet, their little bee feet, I can't say I said bee feet, their little bee feet, their little bee legs, they're in the pollen, and they get the pollen on their feet, and then they go from one flower to the next flower. And when they take the pollen from that flower and put it on another flower, that's called pollination. Can you say pollination? Yeah! Isn't that cool? That's what helps makes the flower grow. And sometimes, boys and girls, the wind when it blows through the trees and it blows through the plants, it blows the pollen around and it goes from flower to flower. Boys and girls, do you remember sometimes when you're driving, well, you're not driving yet, I'm sorry. When your mom's driving or you're in a car and you look at it, it was clean on Monday, and on Tuesday, it's got yellow dust all over it. Yeah, it's like, didn't I just wash this car? What is this yellow dust? Pollen. The pollen's all over the cars, boys and girls, because it blows around. It's not good for the car, it's good for the plant. And some people have hay fever. Achoo! And they don't like pollen, but they call it hay fever. Why don't they call it pollen fever? I need to talk with the people about that. It should be called pollen fever. Wait a minute. Stay focused, Sean Brown. Squirrel! Okay, boys and girls, here's a really cool thing. Now, think about this on a farm. They have apple orchards, cherry orchards, orange orchards, pecan orchards, walnut orchards. But listen, boys and girls, these are all plants and they need to be pollinated. But what if there's not enough bees? If you have thousands and thousands and thousands of trees and you don't have enough bees, well, your plants aren't going to get pollinated and you're not going to have a good crop. If you don't have a good crop, you can't make any money. If you can't make any money, you can't buy any food. If you can't buy any food, you can't eat. And if you can't eat, then you're hungry and then it starts all over again. What happened to my bees? Bees, boys and girls. The farmer that has the orchard, he goes to another farmer. He goes to the bee farmer. There's farmers that raise bees, boys and girls. They raise them from little baby bees to big bees, and they put them in boxes, boys and girls. Bees aren't just for making honey. They also use them to help pollinate. The bee farmer takes these bees and he puts them in these boxes. They're little white boxes. And then these boxes, boys and girls, are put in a truck, and they take the truck to the apple orchard or the orange orchard or the cherry orchard, and they put the bees all around the orchard. And boys and girls, something really cool takes place then. You have all types of bees in the box. You have a worker bee. You have scout bees. The scout bees, they'll go out early in the morning. It's like, hey, let's see what's going on out here. Where do they have us today? It sure smells good. And then they'll go out and they'll check out what's going on, and they'll see that there's pollen and there's nectar everywhere. And then they go back to their box and they'll say, dudes, you're not gonna believe this, but there is nectar everywhere, as far as the eye can see. To the north, to the south, to the east, to the west, there is nectar everywhere. Who wants nectar? Boys and girls, they go crazy in the box. Yeah, nectar! And he says, who wants to pollinate? And they start singing, pollinate, pollinate, we just want to pollinate, pollinate. I'm sorry. Calm down, Sean Brown. Calm down. Well, I'm sure the bees don't talk like that, but I'm sure that's probably what they're saying. Pollinate, pollinate. I'm sorry. Boys and girls, then they go out, and then they go to get nectar. And while they're getting nectar, their little bee feet or bee legs or whatever, bee arms and legs, whatever, they're all over the plant, and they're getting that dust on there. And they take the dust from that one flower, and they go to the next flower to get some more nectar. I'm sorry, I was drinking that too fast because it's so delicious. They took the dust from one flower to the next flower, and it pollinated it. Can you say pollinate? Yeah. One flower to the next, and bees all over the place are doing that to all the plants. And the farmer, he's gonna have an awesome crop because all of his plants are getting pollinated. And then the bees go back home. Wait a minute. I guess you're saying, how do they know where their house is? With all those white boxes, how come they don't all go to the one box? How do they go to the different boxes? I'm glad you asked, boys and girls. They go back to wherever the queen is. The queen bee stays in the box. The queen doesn't have to work. Oh yeah, she's a kept bee. Ask your mom what that is. Listen, all the time, the queen bee is in there, knowing that all of her bees are coming back. Those bees know who their mommy is. You know who your mommy is. They don't confuse it. They know where home is, and they always come back to the right box. And the next day, boys and girls, they do it all over again. Can you imagine just eating nectar all day long? It's like you eating ice cream all day long. Wrong, shouldn't do it. But nectar to a bee, oh man, that's good eating, boys and girls. Isn't springtime cool? There's so much cool stuff that goes on in springtime. I love the springtime. Can I go now? Bye-bye, boys and girls.